With the NBA, as I'm recording this, just 3 days away from starting up, Lakers, Nuggets, Warriors, Suns, gonna be an awesome matchup on Tuesday, and then Wednesday is gonna be all the other games. I'm gonna be releasing the ultimate prediction video for the 2023-2024 NBA season. This is gonna be including standing predictions for West and East, every single team prediction, not exact records, but just standings, award predictions with MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Most Improved Player of the Year, if I didn't say that already, and Coach of the Year, and the NBA Championship prediction. All that good stuff. I'm not going to go into all NBA predictions and all that. That'll take way too long of a video. I don't want to do all that editing right before the NBA season starts and not even get the video out in time. So we're just going to do standings, awards, championship prediction, and let's get into it. We're going to start off with the quick ones, and we're going to start with who I think is going to be the NBA championship winner of the 2023-24 NBA season. Now, this does not mean they're going to be the first seed in the Eastern Conference or anything, or the Western Conference, but my NBA championship prediction is the Boston Celtics. I just think this is their year. I know the Bucks added Dame. I know the Suns have KD, Beal, Booker, Nurkic, and everything. I know the Lakers have LeBron and AD. Those teams can definitely win it. I'm probably wrong with this prediction, like most people are, but I think the Celtics I think they're due for a championship after 4 straight years, I believe it is, of conference finals appearances. They gotta win it eventually, especially after getting so close in the 2022 finals. I think they got better with Jrue Holiday and Porzingis. I know they lost Smart, but I do think Jrue Holiday is an upgrade for sure. And I just think this is their year. I mean, Boston Celtics have championship DNA through their whole organization. I think they're due. So going into the award predictions for this coming up season, my MVP, most valuable player, the championships I predicted were the Boston Celtics. I'm predicting MVP is going to be Jason Tatum. I think this is a Celtics year. They're going to win the championship. I think they're going to be high in the standings. I just think Jason Tatum is going to hoop this year. I think this is the year where if it doesn't work, if it doesn't click, they might need to trade someone big like Jaylen Brown or get a new head coach or something, because there's no way they go this deep into the playoffs, Eastern Conference Finals appearance, like 4 straight years or something like that, and they don't win one championship. They're 2 rounds away from winning a championship, or 1, depending on how you look at it. And I think we're due for a Jason Tatum like legendary season. I know he has it in him. He's a great two-way player. Jason Tatum also has much more freedom in this offense, with Porzingis being able to stretch the floor, Jrue Holiday having to take the best perimeter assignment, so it's not going to have to be Jason Tatum. I think that's going to benefit Jaylen Brown as well, so I think he'll have a better season, but I just think Jason Tatum's going to go off this year. MVP, I know it's kind of crazy to predict Jason Tatum, but I just think this is his year. Probably wrong, I know most of these predictions will be, but it's just fun to think about and, to start the conversation. Now, my Defensive Player of the Year, if you remember from last year, was Anthony Davis. This year, I'm going with Anthony Davis again. I think the Lakers are going to be a much better team, going to be a great defense led by Anthony Davis. I just think this is his year as well. He's never won one in his career. I think he's been in the running before, like it was pretty close. I think it was like the 2020 season or something like that he was in the running. I think this is his year. The Lakers are going to be pretty good this year, I think, especially on defense. And yeah, I just have Anthony Davis as Defensive Player of the Year this year. Rookie of the Year, Spurs fan, I know I might be a little biased, but Victor Wembanyama, this man has been looking spectacular in the preseason, just I think averaging over 20 or close to it. Wemby is just going insane in the preseason. Cannot wait to see this translate to real stats and real wins. So yeah, I can't wait to see Wemby's rookie season. And I love Chet, I love Scoot, I love the Thompson twins, I love all those guys, but I just think Wemby's on another level. This guy is just insane. Yeah, I have Wemby as Rookie of the Year pretty easily this year. For Most Improved Player of the Year this year, I think this is a pretty common take, but I have Jordan Poole. This man is going on to a new team where he's the 1 or 2 option, I don't really know. He put up 40 plus in the preseason. Him and Kuzma, Tyus Jones. This team's just, not good. I mean, I'm not going to say they're good, but they just have a decent team. And with Jordan Poole, well, I'm not even going to say they have a decent team. I have them pretty low in my rankings. But Jordan Poole, I think, is going to have the keys to do whatever the heck he wants. As you saw in the preseason, he put up 40. In the next game, he only had like 7 or something like that. probably going to be a pretty rocky season for the Wizards, but I just think Jordan Poole is going to go from last year being a pretty good sixth man, was in the running for sixth man of the year, and this year he's just going to have the absolute ultimate green light to shoot whatever he wants, and I think he's gonna just average like 20 plus pretty easily. Sixth man of the year, I have Russell Westbrook. This man Westbrook was playing amazing for the Clippers, especially in the playoffs, where he was just showing ultimate heart and effort on the court, where he was just doing everything you want out of a player. It's not Westbrook from the 2017 Thunder or anything, but definitely a player that you would want on your roster that does the dirty work and also just makes everyone around him better, makes everyone around him more, engaged into the game and everything. Sixth man of the year, I just got to go with Westbrook, and I also think the Clippers are going to be pretty good this year. And Westbrook, we know he has the capabilities to be a great sixth man. And for coach of the year, I have Frank Vogel of the Phoenix Suns. I think he's going to come in here and really shape and mold this entire culture of the Phoenix Suns, where it's going to be KD, Beal, Booker, Nurkic. Just a very solid team out there, or not just a solid team, a great team in my opinion. I have him pretty high in the standings predictions that we're going to get into right after this award. And Frank Vogel, we've already seen him lead a team into a championship run with the Lakers in 2020. And him on the Suns, I think he has a lot on his plate with all these superstars. He's going to have to combine them and make them mesh together real well on the court. Not chemistry-wise really, but just on the court. And Frank Vogel got a lot on his plate, and I think he's going to do pretty well. Very well actually, and he's a defensive minded head coach. If he's able to get this team that is an offensive powerhouse to play some defense too, oh man, the Suns, they could win this championship. Forget the Celtics, like I said earlier, the Suns might have it. Now we're going to go into Eastern Conference standing predictions. We're going to go from bottom to top, 15 to 1. So at the very bottom of the list for the Eastern Conference, I have the Charlotte Hornets. This team has just been a dumpster fire, how it's been ran, the players, how they've been acting off the field. LaMelo Ball can't stay healthy all the time. It's just, I hope he does stay healthy this year, but like, man, the Hornets just cannot have a good, decent season of just all basketball being played. There has to be something else outside of the court that's just, a bunch of drama or something. It can never just be a normal season for them. So for the Hornets, I have them being very low, actually the lowest, 15 in the Eastern Conference. Coming in at 14, I have the Washington Wizards. They're not going to be a very good team. I mean, there's going to be a whole lot of young players just being told, do whatever the heck you want, just develop or something, just do whatever. We're not trying to win. We traded a bunch of our players this offseason with Beal, Porzingis. They got Tyus Jones, who's a pretty good player. And yeah, the Wizards are going to be at 14. Nothing too much more to talk about. Coming in at 13, I have the Detroit Pistons, who I wanted to put higher, but this is just so hard to make this list. The Detroit Pistons have Cade Cunningham coming back this year, fully healthy, fully locked in. If you didn't know, before this man Cade got hurt last year, he was balling, and now he has Jaden Ivey in his backcourt. One of the Thompson twins, I still have to get used to which one is which. I don't know which one is on his team between Asar and MN. But one of the Thompson twins, both of them are good on this team. Jalen Duran, Marvin Bagley, James Wiseman on his squad. I just think this team is going to be pretty decent. And Cade Cunningham, obviously the front runner of this team. I think he's going to be a great player this year. Borderline all-star in my opinion, but with the Pistons being 13 in my standings, I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but he's definitely going to be in the conversation. And at number 12, I have the Orlando Magic. Honestly, 12 and 13 with the Magic and Pistons can be switched around if you really wanted to. But the Magic this year, I just like their personnel a little bit better. I like Cade over Paolo in my personal preference, but Paolo is still a great player. This year, he can definitely go over Cade, in my opinion, and I think he probably will be. Paolo, just a great two-way player, and his ability to just get out there and get buckets is just so tough. And this team led by Paolo, who's already going to be a 20+ per game scorer, two-way player and everything. This team has Anthony Black, Jonathan Isaac, Jalen Suggs. They added Joe Ingles, who just out there, stretch the floor a little bit. Nice sharpshooter out there. Markelle Fultz, I think, is going to have a really great season. Franz Wagner, who I love out there. Franz Wagner is so good. This team, I just think, is going to be so young. I think they're going to get higher and higher each year in the standings. But this year, I have them at 12, just right below the play-in game. But I think they can definitely make it. But I just think these teams above them are just a little bit better. And at number 11, I do have the Toronto Raptors, who I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to make of this roster, honestly. You know, Scotty Barnes, of course, former Rookie of the Year, didn't have the greatest sophomore season, but you know, Scotty Barnes is still a hooper. We don't got to debate about that. Pascal Siakam, they got rid of Van Vliet. Gary Trent Jr. is out there. I don't know if I'm missing anybody, but I don't know. Oh, Grady Dick, of course. I just don't know what to think about this team, really. I just don't really like it. Jakob Poeltl as well, who was actually pretty solid for them last year. Very, of course, with the Spurs and Raptors before he got traded to the Spurs. Always been a very solid center. And with him on the roster, they were actually a pretty decent team. But, of course, that roster was different from what it is now. And I just don't really like this roster's construction very much. I just don't know who to trust fully offensively. I just think they're going to fall down pretty far from what they were last year. And honestly, I can see them falling farther down. At number 10, I have the Chicago Bulls, who, if I'm being honest, they gotta rebuild this roster already. DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Lonzo Ball has not worked out well. They just gotta trade somebody or both of them. Get rid of both of them at this point. They are just going to be an absolute mediocre team, probably right below 500. Have them at 10, they're just going to barely make the play in my scenario. I just don't like this roster, if I'm being fully honest, and I think it's time for the Bulls to wrap it up with this attempt at a championship run, if you want to call it that. DeMar was great his first season there, and it's just steadily gone downwards for this team, standing wise and production wise, from all these guys. And coming in at number 9, I have the Indiana Pacers, who, unlike these past teams I've been talking about, I actually have some high hopes for this team, and I think they can even go above expectations for me at number 9. I think they can be higher than this with Tyrese Halliburton, who is already showing flashes of his future multi-time All-Star. Of course, Benedict Mathurin. They added Obi Toppin, who just went crazy in the past game doing between-the-leg dunks and stuff. Andrew Nembhard, Jarris Walker, Buddy Hield, TJ McConnell, Bruce Brown they added this year. Jalen Smith, Aaron Nesmith. I just think this is a very good and young team who's not really attempting to make the play-in or playoffs or anything, but they're just naturally that good, and I'm expecting development from all these guys as well. And if all that does happen, oh man, this team is going to be nice in the coming years. Now at number 8, I got the Brooklyn Nets, led by Mikal Bridges, Nicholas Claxton, and all those guys over there, Cam Thomas and all of them. You know, this team is just very, very solid, but I feel like I'm kind of overhyping them right here. Last year they were gifted a good record when KD and Kyrie were playing there for the first half of the season. Obviously they were traded to different teams, and now this whole roster is completely different. And this year I feel like number 8 is kind of high, but I'm banking on Mikal Bridges having a borderline all-star season. Hopefully Claxton is back into his defensive player of the year type ways. He obviously didn't win that award, but he was in the race for quite a bit in that last season. Yeah, I just like this team. Hopefully everyone else grows. Hopefully it's not too much of we're trying to win games. Hopefully it's also, yeah, let's try and develop these guys, let them let loose, not try and take everything too seriously this year. See who we want to keep this off season and see who we might want to kick out the door. All that type of stuff for a decent rebuild. So the Brooklyn Nets at number 8 might be a little too high, but I think right above them is when it gets real interesting in these standing predictions, where at number 7, I have the Atlanta Hawks, who I think can honestly be higher than this. Honestly, much higher than this if this Hawks team gets it together this season. But at the same time, I can also see them being lower than this. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle ground right here at number 7. The Hawks are kind of hit or miss team, especially with DeJounte Murray and Trae Young coming into this season. We don't really know how good this duo is going to be. Last year kind of underperformed in my opinion. And this Hawks team, I just don't see them being that great at number 7. I think they're going to just barely be in the playing game. They could possibly avoid it. I don't know. The teams above them could be a little bit worse than the regular season. But especially the one that's right above them, who don't take the regular season very seriously. But the Hawks, I think this year with Quinn Snyder having another year under his belt, or another offseason under his belt, with this Atlanta Hawks team. It's going to be better for the team overall. Gets to, you know, be with the players more, see what offense they like to run, defense they kind of like to run. And Trae Young and DeJounte, hopefully they get it together. Convo, of course, DeAndre Hunter, AJ Griffin, all these guys. I think they can definitely be higher in the standings, but I also think their floor is pretty low as well. So going into number 6, I have the team that I said doesn't really take the regular season too seriously with the Miami Heat, led by Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and all those guys, Tyler Hero. They lost Max Strus, they lost Gabe Vincent. All these guys that were pretty pivotal in their playoff run, they all lost. And I think that's going to hurt them a little bit, and the fact that Jimmy Butler hardly takes the regular season seriously, kind of just waits to turn up in the playoffs. I think they're going to just barely make it out the play-in and land at the 6th seed. And this team, I still think is going to be pretty good come playoff time. Jimmy G Buckets is insane in the playoffs, but them missing out on Dame this offseason, Bradley Beal in the beginning of the offseason. It's just some tough sledding to be a Miami Heat fan right now. A little bit. I mean, they just made the NBA Finals. Let me relax a little bit. But they're just missing out on these key superstar players, and they're not really adding anyone else. They're just losing players, really, with Gabe Vincent and Max Strus. And they didn't really add too many players. So, yeah, Miami Heat 6th seed, they honestly could fall a little bit. I can't really see them getting much higher than this, especially with the team above them. And number 5, the New York Knicks. Now, the New York Knicks, I can see being higher than this, but the 5th seed is where I got them. Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, Josh Hart, Quickly, and all those guys. I know I'm missing players. I don't have the rosters right in front of me right now. I kind of want to get these standings out the way really quick. I'm not going into too much depth over the teams, but the New York Knicks, great defense, great offense. Tom Thibodeau, you already know how he is with the coaching, how great his defenses always are. So this team, I can see being better, like I said. But Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, like I said, all those guys are just super solid players. And yeah, New York Knicks, I got a 5th seed, just going to be a super good team. And I think they can make a pretty deep playoff run depending on matchups. Now at number 4, I have the biggest wild card going into this regular season probably, the Philadelphia 76ers with the entire James Harden situation right now. We don't know what the heck is going on. He showed up to the first day of practice, hasn't showed up since, hasn't let anyone know what's going on. So the 76ers are here at 4. I can see them being 5, honestly, depending on what they get for James Harden if the trade does happen, or if he just sits the entire season, and that's one less player that you thought you were going to come into the season with. And yeah, the 76ers, they obviously had the former MVP with Joel Embiid. Tyrese Maxey might make a jump if James Harden is getting traded or doesn't play. But yeah, this team is still pretty solid, but I don't know. I just don't have much faith with this team. And if they don't make a deep push this season, it's time to make some big changes again with this roster. Now, at number 3, I have the Cavaliers, who are just a very well-rounded team. The very definition of a well-rounded team, the Cavaliers. Donovan Mitchell, of course, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. They added Max Strus, Isaac Okoro, like all these guys, just super solid guys. All around, just make a very solid team. Number 3 seed, I think they're going to be a very good regular season team. Come playoff time, they got to, fix some things. We saw them get smacked by the Knicks last year. Yeah, come playoff time, they got to definitely fix some things. But regular season wise, I think they're going to be really good. And at number 2, I have the Boston Celtics. I think this team is just going to be so beautiful to watch in the regular season with Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, Al Horford, who else did I forget? I don't know if I forget anybody. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, all those guys, of course. Derek White. They lost on Grant Williams. They lost on Marcus Smart. But they added Porzingis and Drew Holiday. If that's not an upgrade, I don't know what is. Payne Pritchard has looked nice. He got his contract as well. I just like this team a lot. And at number 2 might be a surprise to y'all. Y'all might have him at 1. But at number 1, I have the Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo led Milwaukee Bucks. This team, I think, is honestly deeper than the Boston Celtics. I think they have the better dynamic duo. Adrian Griffin, new coach. I don't know if he's going to be good, but I think the Bucks is just going to be really solid this year. I think Adrian Griffin's going to be solid, but head coach, I've never seen him a head coach, so I can't tell you. But I think Adrian Griffin's going to be fine. And this team, I got at number 1, the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, going into the extremely hard Western Conference that I had to deal with, it was just super difficult to, decide who was going to be out the play-in games, just barely making it, you know, who was missing the play-in games but making the top 6 seed in the West. It was super hard to decide all those different things, but I finally got it down. My final opinion of the Western Conference. Obviously, all of ours are going to be different. Tell me what yours are in the comments down below once I get through mine and everything. Going into number 15, I think this is a pretty decent opinion. I think this is going to be a lot of people's number 15 seed. The Portland Trail Blazers. They just got rid of Damian Lillard. They have Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson, DeAndre Ayton, Shaedon Sharpe. All these guys are super young. I think we just gotta relax on this team, give them a little bit of time to actually develop and everything. Blazers are in rebuild mode, finally moving on from Dame. I think this is gonna be the smart move in the long run, and of course, they're not going to be good now, but in the future when they get their picks and everything, I think this is the right step for the Blazers. They're going to be the 15th seed. They're going to be pretty bad this year, but in the next coming years, of course, they're going to be much better. So just above the Blazers, I have at number 14 the San Antonio Spurs, who just like the Blazers have a rookie. Of course, talking about Victor Wembanyama, who has looked spectacular in the preseason. I know I'm a biased Spurs fan, but the Spurs might just be a little higher than this with how good Victor Wembanyama has looked. And of course, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, all these guys just very young. And in the future, this team is going to be much better. But right now, Wemby's first season in the league, just get his feet wet in the league a little bit, let him, you know, experiment with what he wants to do, what he's comfortable in, what he needs to work on and everything. Just all that stuff. This isn't a year for the Spurs to go out there and try and win a championship or anything. This is rebuilds phase still. Try and see what pieces need to stay with Wemby, what pieces need to go. So, you know, 14 for the Spurs, I think that's pretty reasonable for them. And at number 13, I have the Houston Rockets. Once again, another young team. You know, the bottom 3 teams in the West, very young, rebuilding, and I honestly like all 3 of them and what they're doing. And for the Rockets, obviously Sengun, Jalen Green, they got rid of Kevin Porter Jr. with what happened earlier in the offseason, and they don't have him anymore, but they have Jalen Green, Sengun, one of the Thompson twins. I still can't get it. I forget who's on whose team, Amen or Asar, I forget which one. They obviously signed Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet in the offseason. There's going to be more competitive and more games, going to win more games, get more close games in the regular season, so these young guys can, you know, get more clutch time and clutch minutes, because last year was a train wreck of a season. They were getting blown out every single game. So this year I think it's going to be more competitive. They're going to have a lot more closer games. So I think it's going to be positive for the Rockets. And number 13, I think it's pretty reasonable as well. I think they can be a little bit higher. I don't think they're going to be worse than the Spurs, unless Wemby just comes out and is a borderline all-star. But yeah, the Rockets I like all around. Number 12, the Utah Jazz. I can see the Rockets maybe beating out the Jazz here at 12, but the Jazz I like just a little bit better. Honestly, it's very close between these two teams. The thing about the Jazz is they don't really have a point guard that actually facilitates the ball very well. Jordan Clarkson, Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler. I love me some Walker Kessler. But yeah, last year he was a great defensive player. I'm talking about Kessler here. And this year, he might be Defensive Player of the Year conversations, just how great he was last year. I don't know what it is about that Utah team over there, but they just get these centers that know how to defend the rim. And Walker Kessler can do that at an elite level. And Lauri Markkanen, of course, last year was very good, all-star. Well, can he repeat that? I don't know. I mean, borderline all-star for sure, he can repeat that, but as great of a season, I'm not too sure. Now people are looking at him and know what to expect. Last year, it kind of came out of nowhere. That's why he won Most Improved. So this year, I have him at 12. I can definitely see the Rockets beating him out in the standings. But right here, I do have him at 12. And from 11 and on is when it gets interesting. At number 11, the team I have missing the play-in game. Any of these teams can really fall out from like 11 to like 7 or 8. Like, it's so insane how close the West is going to be this year. Going to be an absolute amazing season. But at number 11, unfortunately, I do have the Minnesota Timberwolves just barely missing the play-in game. I know they got Ant. They have Karl Anthony Towns. They have Rudy Gobert. They just have, what's his name, Jaden McDaniels. They just have very solid players all around. Anthony Edwards going to have another jump year, I'm predicting. Cat and Gobert, I don't know if they're going to mesh. well anymore, or well at all. Jaden McDaniels was one of the best defenders all season last year, but that's kind of where it stops with this team. That's why I have them down here at 11. I think they can definitely have some breakout season where they found the ingredients for a great offense and defense with Cat and Gobert as your front court. They may have found the recipe, but as of right now, I don't know if they have that recipe. And last year was not a very good recipe between those two front court players, and that's why they weren't very good last year. I mean, they were okay last year. I'll say they were. That's why they were okay last year, not good. This year, maybe they could be better, but this year the West just got better, and they didn't really do much to improve. Unless they did get better, just without adding players, they just got better with their system and everything. Unless that happened, but as of right now, I have them missing the play-in game, just barely. This whole entire West is going to be close, but just barely. And at number 10, just barely beating out the Timberwolves, I do have, who missed it last year, the Dallas Mavericks with Luka, Kyrie, and everything. With Kyrie, last year he was added mid-season. This year they have a whole offseason under their belt. I think Kyrie and Luka, that's going to be their entire offense. Literally, if one of them gets hurt, it's over for this team, but hopefully they don't. So yeah, the Mavs are going to be at 10. They just shouldn't really get much better. I don't really think their defense is going to be that good either. So at number 9, I have the New Orleans Pelicans, who honestly could be much higher than this, and it all depends on health. Health is a key factor for this team, and another team coming up as well in the West. You probably know who I'm talking about. But Zion Williamson needs to stay healthy. That's the 100% number one goal for this team. BI, CJ, Valanciunas, all these guys need to stay healthy. And if they do, man, the sky's the limits for this team. The Pelicans, I've always liked them since last year, even the year before, really. But especially last year, I predicted them to go like number 3, number 2 in the West. Obviously, Zion couldn't stay healthy. But this year, hopefully he actually stays healthy, and if he does, can definitely be higher than this. But I'm definitely expecting a little bit of injuries from Zion, because he just has not shown that he can stay healthy at all. I hope he does though. I really do hope he does, but it's just hard to really put my trust into this team after so many injuries. At number 8, I have the very young but fun Oklahoma City Thunder, who are kind of getting a little overrated from some people. Some people are saying like they can be top 6 in the West. Now, I think that's a little bit of a stretch. I have them at 8, getting home court advantage in the play-in game, but nothing more than that. Of course, Shea is going to have another great year. Josh Giddey, they're getting Chet back. Jalen Williams, both of Jalen Williams on the team. I just think Lou Dort, of course. I just really like this team. I think they're very young. I think they're going to be very fast. I like this team's defense as well. I just think they're going to be very solid all around. They're not going to be super great at anything, but I think they're just going to be very solid. They're going to be very young. And in the coming years, the Thunder, with all these picks as well, going to be crazy. So at number 7, I have the Memphis Grizzlies, who are going to be missing Ja Morant for the first 20 games or something like that. And in my opinion, I think that's going to hurt them a ton. I think Ja Morant not on this roster is going to hurt them. I know in the past, Taylor Jenkins has found a way to make this team good, even without Ja. But that team is much different than what they got right now. They have no Tyus Jones, no Dillon Brooks. They replaced that with Marcus Smart, pretty good player, but he cannot fill the role of what Tyus Jones brought to this backcourt. I know he has the defense. He has what Memphis wants in a replacement for Dillon Brooks, but you need a replacement for Tyus Jones and Ja Morant, and Marcus Smart is not that. Desmond Bane is probably going to have a really good season, though. He's been increasingly getting better and better. I just don't think they have a guy that can do what Ja Morant does, even at a smaller level. I just don't even think they can fill that hole at all. And I think that's going to hurt them a lot in this very tight race in the West. And it came out right before the season was about to start. Steven Adams is going to miss the entire season with season-ending surgery. So that is just absolute horrible news for Grizzlies fans. Steven Adams has been great when he's actually played, but without him, not very much. And now with no Tyus Jones, like I said, no Ja Morant for the first couple of games, I just can't see this team bouncing back for when Ja does come back. I think they're already going to have a pretty bad record, or maybe not bad, but mediocre record. Coming in at number 6, I have the Sacramento Kings, who had a magical season last year, and that's mainly the main reason why I have them at 6 this year. I just don't think they can repeat it. That's the main thing. The West got better while they didn't really add much. And yeah, they had a career year for mostly everybody on that roster. and they didn't really add anybody else to help them out this year. I think that's a recipe for a little bit of a downgrade of a season. Not gonna say they're not gonna be good, but I think this West is just so tight that it's gonna be hard for them to even come close to what they did last year in the regular season. And at number 5, I got the Golden State Warriors with the Chris Paul addition. At first, I didn't really like it. I thought it was a weird fit. Maybe he comes off the bench. Maybe he still does come off the bench, but in the preseason, he's looked really solid, and everyone else has looked really solid around him. And that's with no Draymond Green playing in this preseason. I think Steve Kerr is going to get the job done with this team, especially with when Draymond comes back. I think he's going to find some sort of good recipe for when Chris Paul comes on this team, whether he's going to start or come off the bench. So yeah, I think the Warriors are going to be pretty solid this year. Number 5 seed. And then number 4, the Clippers, who all of this season balances on if they can stay healthy with Kawhi and Paul George, and if they can with Westbrook coming off that bench, I think this team can maybe even be higher than this, but maybe not actually. But number 4, I have the Clippers. I think they're going to be very good. Hopefully they stay healthy. It kind of seems like they're going to try and take this regular season more seriously. If they do, I think the number 4 seed is pretty reasonable for this team. Maybe a little bit lower because of injuries and everything, but the NBA did make a rule for the teams not being able to sit their star players as much as they used to. But yeah, so the Clippers are number 4. But coming in at number 3, I have the other LA team, the Los Angeles Lakers. I think this team, without Westbrook starting off in the season for them, they have the entire roster they had in that conference finals push with Austin Reeves, Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell, of course, LeBron and Anthony Davis. They added Taurean Prince. All these guys, I just think it's just adding up to be a very solid roster. Also, shooters around LeBron is always a good sign. And this defense, I think, is going to be great defense as well. So yeah, I think the Lakers are going to have a very good team this year, be the number 3 seed, barring no injuries, of course. And number 2 in the West, I have the defending champions, the Denver Nuggets. I think there's going to be a little bit of championship fatigue with this team. Of course, when you win a championship, of course you want to win another one, but at this point, they have nothing to prove. Everyone has a target on their back as well. They want to beat the champions. The Nuggets, I think, are still going to be very good. I mean, they're the defending champions for a reason. But I think the number 1 team, you can probably already guess who it is going to be a little bit better than them. Of course, all these teams are going to be very close. I'm probably wrong on like 90% of these. But yeah, I do have the Nuggets at number 2. Nothing too much to say about them. We all know why they're good. I mean, Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon. They did lose Bruce Brown to the Indiana Pacers. But yeah, this team is still pretty good though. I mean, not just pretty good, incredible. But yeah, I think they're going to be number 2. Could still be number 1. I can't see them being any lower than these 2 spots though. And at number 1, I have the Phoenix Suns with Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Nurkic. Just all these solid players, and added Frank Vogel as a head coach, who's going to hopefully get this defense straight, because we already know the offense is going to be great. Get this defense straight. And also this offseason, I have loved what they've done. They actually filled out their bench instead of just leaving it up all to the starters. They actually filled it up a little bit in the bench and made this team much more well-rounded than it was prior. And yeah, I think this team is going to be great regular season-wise. Come playoff time, we'll have to see. But a regular season, I think they're going to be incredible. So that wraps up my ultimate regular season rankings and predictions and all that stuff. This took me over an hour to record, which is not normal for my recordings. But if you like this video, hit the like button down below, subscribe button, notification bell, so you can be notified as soon as I upload. If you agree, disagree, or are on the fence with what I'm saying, put it down in the comments below. Let me hear your predictions. Maybe not the entire standings, but like awards and stuff, first seeds. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.